Hi, I'm Jim, and in this tutorial, we're going to set up our Infinity PBR characters with animations and input controls from Explosive's free Character Animation Pack. The first objective is going to be setting up your own character and camera prefabs that you can easily drag into all your projects. At the end of the video, I have a bit of a fun extra in the form of these training dummies that you can beat up. Alright, so fire up a new project and let's dive in. Since this is my first video, I'm going to start from scratch, and then in the future I'll put some of these steps and notes in a PDF. I'm going to go to the package manager and I'll import the human character pack and the rock monster pack. Next, go to the asset store and grab this RPG Character Mecanim Animation Pack, free by Explosive. And we'll be using this for the entire video because there's so much great stuff in it. Lastly, I'm going into the Unity registry of the package manager to get ProBuilder. And don't worry, we aren't doing any modeling, but I think it makes a lot of sense to include in this project because you might do some prototyping. So after ProBuilder imports, go to Tools, ProBuilder, and ProBuilder Window, and dock that window somewhere. We're only going to use it for this next step. So in the window, click New Shape and create a 10 by 10 plane. Click Build, and then you can shut that window. Now with holding Control so that it snaps on the Unity units and pressing Control D, I'll duplicate the plane around. And for tidiness, I'm creating an empty game object. I'll call it Ground, and then I'll take all the planes and put it underneath that. And Ground is at 0, 0, 0. Now check this out. Select the camera. And now we're in the camera's view. Real quick, I want to show you two shortcuts I use all the time. The first is this Align View to Selected, which is in Game Object, Align View to Selected. And I've changed it to be Control-Alt-Space. To set that up, go into Edit and then to Shortcuts. And then you can type Align. And then there you can double-click on Shortcut and type in Control-Alt-Space. There's another one I use all the time, and I'm just going to show you that. So type Active, and this is Main Menu Game Object Toggle Active State. And my shortcut for that is the back quote or tilde key. If it fits your keyboard, this is awesome because you don't have to go into the inspector to toggle things on and off. To disable this plane right now, you have to go all the way to the inspector and toggle it all the way across the screen, and it feels so slow. But with this shortcut, you can just press that key and turn things on and off. It's super fast. Next, go into Edit and Project Settings, and there we can, in Player, change the color space to linear. That gives us some better shading. Okay, and let's close that up. Next, our directional light is casting a yellow hue on everything, and I don't like that. I want to see how our characters look accurately, so I'm going to go into the color on the directional light and change it to white. I don't like using the default skybox, so I'm just going to go into Edit and Preferences, and then change that to be a solid color. Then in the scene view, there's this little skybox toggle. All right, at long last, let's go get a human. So I'm going to go into the Infinity PBR folder, and then I'll get it into a list view, and then go into humans and prefabs and characters. And here we see a version 3 and a version 4. Version 4 is the most recent one, and it works with the armor pack, so I'm going to use that. And then I'll just position and rotate her in front of the camera. Then I'll go into the Explosive Free Pack, into RPG Character, and then into Prefabs and Character, and I'll drag this guy in. And I'll line him up and scale him down a little bit. Then I'll select the sword and disable it with that shortcut. Then I'm going to turn off the gizmos with this little toggle right here. All right, let's press play and see what happens. And he falls right through the floor. If you look at the bottom, we have a warning that says walkable layer not properly set. To fix this, go to Edit and Project Settings, and then Tags and Layers, and then click on that little slider button. That will show us presets that we have in our project folder, and then just select the tag one. It should be the only one there. That's the one that the RPG Free is giving us. Expand Layers, and there we have that walkable layer. We also have a preset for our inputs, so go to Input Manager, and then once again, click on that same preset toggle and select Input Manager. And now we have the input set up from the RPG pack. If you don't have a game controller, that's totally fine, but it probably is a good idea to add an attack. So pick an attack, and then where it says alternate positive button, just type mouse 0, and that'll be your left click. Now you can close that up. Then expand the ground and select all the planes, and then go to Layer and switch them to Walkable. And while I'm here, I'll also toggle them as static in case I want to use the nav mesh. And we don't need ProBuilder anymore, so I'm just going to close that tab. Since our planes are ProBuilder objects, they have mesh colliders, and there's something important we need to do for that. So if you go to the explosive folder and then double click on this PDF here, and if you scroll down, here's things we've already done. All right, set up world colliders. Any object with a mesh collider needs the BSP tree script attached to it. Okay, and if you want to control the slope height for an object, you can attach this super collision type script to it. But let's do that BSP tree. So I'm going to select all the planes, and then add component, and then look for it, BSP tree. And that's the script that we need for however this RPG character works. All right, so now let's cross our fingers and see if our character is going to stay on the plane. And all right, it works. Cool. And by the way, to have a solid color for the background for the play mode, I made the camera's clear flag solid color and picked a pale blue. And you can try out all the animations by using your controller or clicking on these UI buttons. Now, since the cube guy has so many different scripts on him, let's just go into the explosive demo scene and just see what all he does. So I'm going into scenes and clicking on the scene. You can have fun checking this out yourself. I don't think I need to talk through it. Let's focus on bringing it all over to our Infinity character. In the RPG character, let's just expand that. And we can see that there is a RPG character object that has a animator on it. And then below that, it looks like we have an armature and the character's mesh. If we check out the human character, we can see she has some scripts like the blend shapes to customize how she looks, and then she also has her own animator. What I want you to have is a Infinity character set up with these RPG character free animations, and it's a prefab that you can use in all sorts of different projects. So you don't have to go through all this again. So right click on the RPG character free and select prefab and not unpack, but unpack completely. That'll take away all the prefab stuff related to this, and then it's easier to work with. So then on this RPG character, we want to keep the animator for now, but we don't need the armature and we don't need the block guy mesh, that's for sure. So first I want to zero out the position on the transform and then bring the scale back to 1:1:1. And that's just to prevent weird stuff from happening once we drag the Infinity human inside. And now I'll delete the object called motion, which is the bones, and the mesh. And then drag the human character underneath RPG character. And of course, she'll need to be zeroed out. Now we have two animator components, one on the RPG character, one on the Infinity character. Let's deactivate the one on the Infinity character and use the avatar in the other animator component. So go to RPG character, and we want to use the animation controller with our Infinity PBR character. And let's take a look at the animation controller. So go to Window and Animation and Animator. And then I'll just middle mouse click pan over here. So this is the animation controller from the RPG character pack. And if you click on unarmed, you can see there's a lot of nested states here. That's fine. We don't really need to understand how all this is working right now. The avatar is Unity's humanoid bones. Basically, it's Unity's interpretation of the armature that you bring in. You can see how the avatar is part of the RPG character object, and we can use any humanoid animations with any humanoid avatar. So this is the animation controller for Infinity, and here's the one from the RPG pack. So let's switch this avatar out. I'm selecting the avatar and pressing delete, and then clicking on the little dot here to find another one in the project. So I'll search for human, and there she is, human female version 4. And then when we bring the parent object up to the camera, so I'll do -7, she'll come too. All right, let's see if it works. All right. And I'll test some of the animations out with my controller. Cool. All right, next, let's set up our camera and do sort of a standard third-person camera setup. So let's make a target for the camera. With the RPG character selected, right-click and create empty, and then call it camera target player, just in case we have some other camera target objects. And then put that target at 0, 0, 0. Then on the camera, add the camera controller free script. And that is in the RPG Animation Pack. Now drag that camera target into the camera target slot. And let's just fudge some numbers here. Rotate speed 2, offset distance. So let's try 5 and 5, and smoothing at 2, whatever that is. You can see the values of this kind of thing in the demo scene, of course. All right, let's see how that works. All right, now we're getting somewhere. I think this is a good spot to make this into a prefab. So I'm going to make a folder, and I'll call it Infinity PBR Animation Tutorial. And then in here is where I'm going to put my prefab folder. So you might call yours RPG character prefabs. You want to make it easy to find later on. Okay, so making a prefab is easy. You just drag in that RPG character free into the folder, and now it's a prefab. And then I want to rename it because I want it to be clear that this is a prefab that I've made and I've put together for myself, for my own purposes. So I'm going to call it RPG character home mech. That is my username on Discord, by the way, where you are welcome to say hi to me. It's also a good idea to make a prefab of this camera, because we might want to use that with this character kind of in tandem. So let's see here. We probably already have a camera prefab. Looks like this is in the RPG Character Animation Pack. Let's drag it in and see what it is. Okay, yeah, this is from the demo scene. And I think the UI for the controls would be nice to have with our prefab. So let's remake that. Right-click, go to UI, and then to Canvas. And then let's call this canvas Controls Canvas. Now, keeping in mind that I'm in the game view and not the scene view, go to the canvas and right-click, and then go to UI and add an image. There's our image. So let's find that controller image. So I'm going to type UI and then go into this UI folder, which we can see as part of the RPG Animation Pack. And it's empty because we still have UI in the search right there. So I'm going to delete that. And here's all our images. So I'll select the image, and then let's drag in the Xbox controller, and we can see that it's squished because it's being forced into a 100 by 100 square. So let's click on Set Native Size. Okay, now it looks as it should. And let's bring the game view out and put it right here so we can see the scene and the game view at the same time. And now's a good time to switch the free aspect to 1920 by 1080. And then let's select the image and press F so we can see where it is in the canvas. And now we can move the controller around and kind of find a good spot for it here. And let's rename it to Xbox Controller. Now I'm going to go through and do the same steps with the keyboard controls. So I'll just right-click at an image, bring that image in, and click Set Native Size and put it somewhere. The reason I went into this is because you might want to have images like key mapping or even other kinds of images related to the prefab of the character you're using. Speaking of prefabs, ours retain the original name, and I want to change that to make it clear that this is the prefab that we are putting together. So I'll put my name on there. Okay, great. And then let's save the project because we've done quite a bit of work. Now, when you press play, you'll see that these UI buttons are coming over the images we set up. Go into the scripts on the main character object, and there you can deactivate the GUI GUI controls, and then they won't overlap anymore. Of course, out of play mode, that's going to come back, so you can switch it off, and then actually go in and apply that to our prefab. Click Overrides and then go all the way down to the bottom of the window and then click Apply All. And here's the nice thing. This is our own prefab, so we don't have to worry about applying changes to the original prefab that we drew all this stuff from. All right, I'm going to fold things up a little bit and let's find the RPG weapon controller script and then click on that little dot and let's find a sword. And then we don't want to be in the scene tab. Let's search through the assets, and there it is. That first one is the one that the RPG pack gives us, so let's double click on that. And now there's a couple other prefabs I'd like to make, so I'm going to go into the prefabs folder and I'll drag in my controls canvas and also the main camera. And I want to be really thoughtful here that the names for these prefabs kind of follow the same naming convention. It doesn't matter what convention you use, just that it's consistent. So you'll see me here move things around a little bit so that they look like they all go together. Okay, then I'm going to save things again. Now if we do something like change the distance and height of this camera, so I'll do 3.5 and 3.5, then I'll go to Overrides and Apply All, and let's try that. And it's still pretty far, but you get the idea. The field of view of the camera does have an effect here, so you might want to take that into account. And so I'll bring the height to 2 and offset distance to 1, and we'll try that out. And I want to show you how this camera target works, so you can bring that target up. Okay, that's starting to feel more natural. And out of play mode, I'll just go ahead and set that to what it was. 2.5 is probably good. And then once again, and I think you know how to tweak it from here. So I'm going to go into the Infinity folder and get the rock monster, the one called Demo. All right, he looks cool. I like the larger scale compared to our character too. And I'll rotate him around. Another thing I want to do is on the player character, let's go down to this RPG character controller free where it says target. And let's make the target be the rock monster. So I'm just going to drag that in. Okay, and we can press play and see how that looks. And then the targeting controls you can see in the UI. So targeting is left shift. That's awesome. Love the starting animation for the rock monster. All right, take that. Before we bring in the training dummy, let's fix this argument exception input button submit is not set up. So the Unity input system is looking for something that isn't there, and the RPG free controls didn't include it for some reason. So go to project settings, and then in input manager, I'll just close that up. I'll close up target key, and here I have one called button name because I was trying to fix it, but the actual fix is to have 2 additional buttons or axes, and one should be called submit, and then add one more. So make this be size 22, and this one should be called cancel. So these buttons aren't doing anything, but Unity is looking for them, and so we're going to include them in the input manager. All right, let's check that. So I'll close this and then press play. All right, and now we don't have that error. Nice. The next issue is that her jaw is open, and this is a really common issue with Unity and characters, but I think it'd be a bit of a drag to get into it now, so what I'm going to do is I'll put a video on how to fix it right in the corner. For now, let's get right into beating up the training dummy. Now, you've probably noticed that the attacks are pretty slow, so let's go into the script. So go on the player character, and then go to this RPG character controller script and just double click there. And I'm going to do Control F to find my name because I write notes for myself that way. All right, so here I see a note from my past self Jim, this lets you attack fast. So you might want to search for lock action, Control F and type lock action, or can action, and then comment out this code. So your can action will look like this, and just type a couple forward slashes and you'll comment it out. So can action will always be true, which means there's nothing locking you from punching or kicking again. I would also suggest that you do a couple forward slashes and write a note to yourself with your name so that you can find the things that you've changed in this script that you have. Because I've done that, I can very easily Control F and search for my name, and then press that forward arrow or press enter. And here's another one. Okay, so this is, all right, I see. You added this to get rid of the target warning. Have a nice day and watch your back. I was in the Halloween spirit there. So I'd suggest you look for is strafing, and then you'll find this strafing or walking note, and then you can type this in, this if RPG character controller.target is not equal to null, then you can strafe. So this null check is basically asking, is something there? And if yes, something is there, like it's not empty, then we're going to do this strafing. If it is null, nothing will happen. And actually, let's make something happen on null. Let's make a log so we get a message if it's empty. So I'm going to type else, do the brackets there, and then debug.log, open parentheses, and then I'll type there's no target. By the way, I'm not explaining how the script all works because I don't understand how it all works, but I know how to fix these things that I think that you'll probably want to fix. All right, so let's test that out, and I'm going to remove the target, so there's nothing in the target there. Let's see if we get another error. And we do. Okay, so there's somewhere else where this target is being asked for. So I'll double click on it, and it takes me right to another strafing. So this time I'm just going to make this be, rather than just be an else, it's going to be an else if, and then I will do another null check here. So I think the reason why strafing is taking in this transform position is because we're rotating around the position of the target, the enemy, as we're fighting. So our modification only does the strafing if there is a target there, or technically speaking, if it's not empty. Okay, and I'll put another note to myself. You also need to do a null check here. All right, great. For this next part, you'll need to go to the asset store and download Bolt, which is free. And this is important. Download Bolt before you import the dummy package that I've given you in the link below. The reason being, if you have Bolt first, then all the variables will come in. So I'm doing this here in a blank project. So go to Package Manager, and then once you've downloaded Bolt, you can search for it. Eventually it'll be in the Unity registry, but for now it's going to be in My Assets, and then search for Bolt and download and then import it. Then go up to Tools and select Install Bolt. Just click Import, and then in the Setup Wizard, just click Next, Human Naming, and then just scroll to the bottom and click Next and Generate. After you've done that, you can download the training dummy. So go to Assets, Import Package, Custom Package, and then you can find the training dummy package. And since you've downloaded Bolt first, so I'll just go and find the dummy prefab, which is not this first one, because you can see those import settings in the top right. It's the second one. And here you can see that all of the variables that we're using are right here. Of course, one's missing, like the sparks for the particle effect, but everything else is here. All right, so let's get back to the project and drag in the dummy. Now, everything is mostly ready to go, but there is a script that you need to drag on to your Infinity character. So let's take a look, and I'll explain this a little bit. I'm going to go into Window and bring up the Animation window. And let's click on the character, the RPG character. That's where the animation controller and the animator and everything is. And great. Okay, it starts us out with a attack animation here. Let's kind of preview that. And we got our attack animation. And look at that little tag thing right there. That is an animation event, and it says hit. So every animation we have here has an animation event. Well, every attack animation, I should say, has an animation event that calls a hit function. See, there it is again. So we can use this hit call in our script. So I have made use of it in a script called player hit enemy. So drag that onto the RPG character. All right, like I said, get that player hit enemy script and just drag it onto the RPG character. So I'll remove that. Because the animator's on here, it's calling the hit function on itself. And that's what we're making use of in the script right there, hit. I'll put comments in the script so you understand how it works. We're getting on 30 minutes, so I want to move things along here. But look right here, it says on trigger stay, collider other. On trigger exit, collider other. We need a collider on this game object, so let's go do that. So let's remove the rigid body and the collider from this top parent object, and then put it in the RPG character underneath. So I already have a capsule collider here. And then I'll add a rigid body. And I'll make it is kinematic because I don't want anything affecting her. And she'll be about 80 kilograms. And everything still works, which is a good sign. Now let's take the dummy and drag the dummy into the target of the RPG character controller. So we have a target there, and I'll move the dummy back. Next up, in the human pack, Infinity gives us some really cool magic particle effects. So you could search for those by searching particles in your project window. The one I'm using is Particle Electric Explosion. Select the dummy, and then in where there's the bolt variables, it says sparks. Just drag the particle system there, and that particle system will play on awake when the character hits the dummy. The reason we're using Bolt is because Bolt has something called state machines where you could have like patrol, chase, attack. And I thought they'd be awesome for different states of destruction. I was thinking of the car in Street Fighter 2 in the bonus stage where you could beat up that car and it slowly falls apart. So check this out. The dummy takes hits from that script that we put on the player. And then as you hit the dummy, it goes from one state of destruction to the next. And every destruction state has some instructions for swapping these prefabs out. And in the last state, it turns into a ragdoll. It's so sweet. Eventually, we'll do more stuff with enemy AI and all that, but for now, this is pretty awesome. All right, so guess I'll wrap things up. We're not totally sure what to cover next, so if you have a tutorial request, something you'd like us to cover, please let us know in the comments. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Till next time.